During yesterday's kill stream, I revealed a lawsuit that Matthew Vickers, the grandfather of my son, had filed against his wife, Ariana, the grandmother of my son. In that lawsuit, according to Vickers himself, his wife alleged that he was a rapist and an abuser. Vickers responded to this allegation via his bought and paid for propagandist, Jonathan Harrison. I got both sides of the story and then made my decision to side with Ariana. The phony, factually accurate shill does what the money tells him to do. Despite Matthew Vickers' own daughter, the mother to my son, chiming in to co-sign an obvious fake rape allegation against me from a mentally unwell woman who has falsely accused at least 3 other men of rape, Vickers implies that I am the one. This is the side that plays fast and loose with the truth. Keep in mind, Vickers himself offered to bankroll the false accusation made against me and fund a legal attack that would have presumably led to a prosecution or a civil suit based on a phony allegation, and he didn't care, and he knew it was phony. He filed a separate defamation lawsuit against me where he represented himself, and he failed. Now, he's turned this same exact tactic against his own wife in an effort to bully her into submission. He says he gave his wife, Ariana, an offer before he filed the new defamation lawsuit. I guess it wasn't an offer she couldn't refuse because she did refuse it. The offer was this: she could make it clear to the local authorities that Matthew Vickers never assaulted her or never raped her, etc. She refused to do this. In the face of all scrutiny, in the face of Vickers bullying, in the face of Vickers turning her own family against her, she refused to do this. Now, I ask you, does this sound like something a liar would do? I mean, make up your own mind, but to me, it does not, because it would have been much easier for her to just go along with the bully like she has for decades now at this point. So, again, doesn't strike me as someone who's crazy or telling lies. Matthew Vickers has been trying to destroy me now for half a fucking decade. I've certainly returned fire in response. And you could argue I started it, whatever. But I've been trying to stop it for years now, and he just won't let it go. Because to me, their spin is Ariana is crazy. He is the actual crazy person. I've never known anybody crazier in my whole fucking life. I hope to move on from this. I said this in my rehab video before I went away to rehab, that I don't really want to be in this area. But when you get pushed, I'm not going to be a bitch. And so that's just all there is to it. And I know a lot of stuff that I'm not even telling you in this video. And it's just, this guy needs to be stood up to, not just by me, but by anybody with any type of, it's not about moral mountain. It's about this guy is just a fucking absolute vile, interloping scumbag who came into this area, this sector of the internet in the first place where he wasn't fucking wanted, where he wasn't fucking welcome, tried to make a career off my relationship with his daughter, despicably so, by the way, and he should have been kicked out on his ass, and I'll give Josh Moon some credit. I don't give it to him very often, but he spotted this guy on day one for what he was. Of course, I did too, but you know, people didn't necessarily want to hear it from me, and they didn't even necessarily want to hear it from Josh Moon back in the day. But I feel like people are a lot more receptive to this message now. And what I've been exposed to over the last 2 weeks has made it clear there's no point, and when it comes to him, sticking to that tactic of just, all right, let's move on, because he won't let it be. Rather than be dishonest with his daughter, she asked me to tell her if her mother emailed me. I had emailed her because Vickers himself had sent me several unhinged emails talking about I was going to fail rehab and this and that. And how did that begin? He was in the propagandist chat, Jonathan Harrison's chat, and he was talking about how I had to pay to see my son, the visitation and all this stuff, which is none of his concern. He lives 9 hours away from my son. I see my son as much as he does in person. He lives all the way across the state of California. And he doesn't give a shit about my son in the first place, and he never did. And I have very good reason for saying that. And one day, what was done in the dark will come to the light. That day is not today. You'll just have to take my word for it. But I promise to God, one day, all this will come out. Don't believe his lies, I guess is what I'm saying, shorthand there. Some in his own family, they may be too cowardly. They may fold. Maybe they're too stupid. I don't know. They won't stand up to him, but by God, I will. And after I refused to hand over the emails, and because I found out why they were being sought, I was tipped off that Ariana was being sued, and that's why they really wanted the emails. And it wasn't even his daughter, really. It was him, in my opinion, puppeting her. And this has nothing to do with my relationship with my son in the first place. But you know what? All of a sudden it did. Previous offers of enhanced engagement with my son were withdrawn as punishment for not going along with Matthew Vickers. I believe this to be a major failing by my son's mother, and I say that openly. Updates were taken back to weekly, one-line replies of Xander is fine, which obviously goes against the spirit, if not the letter. Actually, the letter of our agreement, but whatever. So one day that'll be settled. They think they're getting over or whatever. I'm going to see Xander here in about, I don't know, 9 days or so, whatever. So I'm looking forward to that. And I will have a smile on my face, and I have a smile on my face now when I think about it. But the point is, Xander was used as a weapon, as a cudgel, to try to force my hand. And if you know anything about me, some of you do, you know that that tactic never works. That never works. You could cajole me, and his mother almost did. Xander's mother almost did, until I found out what was going on, and then Vickers himself started leaking shit to the propagandist. And I'm like, oh, okay, hold on. This is a different, I see what's going on here. Found out about the lawsuit. If he'd have been smart, I was on the verge of just giving the emails. If he would have let his daughter handle it. But instead, as always, he thinks he knows best. Well, again, thank God that happened. Because he's not getting those emails, and he can fuck right off. I'd rather cut off my left arm and slit my throat right after than give him those emails, and he will never get those emails. Ever. And if he thinks he can, take me to court where I'll defeat you again, as I've done before, just our last time. So today, the paid-for propagandist, again, said that Ariana lost her mind, went crazy due to a shift in medication and some unknown mental episode that somehow wasn't detected by the same doctor that she shares with somebody. I won't say, but maybe you could guess. But somehow they didn't detect this, major mental episode. The doctor's good enough for that other person. Fill in the blanks there. I do not believe for 1 second that Ariana is mentally ill. For one, she's just about been the most solidly sane person out of the people I've been forced to deal with over the past year. She's the most solidly sane. Last summer, she did apologize to me for being part of a show where my mother was digitally burned in effigy during each trashy, low-rent edition of the so-called live stream. I followed up with some apologies of my own, and we had a back and forth, and it was good. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. If you have to deal with people for the rest of your lives, I mean, you fight for a while, but eventually you get tired of fighting, right? It's like, okay, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of fighting. But some people are mentally unwell, like Matthew Vickers, and they want to keep fighting. But like his main plan is to ruin me. But like his coin shop and his marriage and his dental care plan, it's going to fail. But, like any good con man, Vickers never stopped scheming a way to achieve his ultimate greasy goal, which is my destruction and cut me out of my son's life. Matthew Vickers is four things: a liar, a bully, a vexatious litigant, and a fraud. He's failed at everything he's attempted in his miserable life, including his mission to destroy me. He had a $120,000 default judgment entered against him recently because he refused to respond to any of the proceedings. Elder abuse, swindling an old man out of his savings, is a part of those allegations, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. And again, he's been found guilty by default. At 47 years of age, he was working as an intern at a local government office, slubbing around for any crumb he could find until they shit-canned him from even that meager opportunity. His entire life is a house of cards that was just waiting for the slightest push, the tiniest flick to send it all tumbling down. Little did I know a half decade ago just how mentally deranged this guy really is. There is a crazy person in the Vickers family, but it's not Ariana, it's Matthew, and he can get fucked right to hell. I know that few would expect me to come out here and be a defender of women. This is not my calling card. After all, my catchphrase is trust no bitch, even though, funnily enough, I have trusted many of them over the years. I do trust Ariana, however, and I feel terrible about what Matthew has done to her and her family. I believe her, not Matthew Vickers or those under his thumb. I am saddened that she has been cut out of my son's life for the past year. I am doubly saddened that her own mother, age 87, has also been cut out of his life. Unfortunately, at this point, there's nothing I can do to help on that front. One day, however, that will not be the case. Pray for Ariana. Pray for me. Pray for my son. Pray that her children one day see the light. Thank you for listening. It's not really something I wanted to be doing. I hope one day Alexander will forgive me for my sins. However, this video is not one of those sins. And fuck you, Matthew Vickers, you piece of fucking trash.